Chapter 14. I stared at the skull and crossbones. Whatever was up ahead was bad enough. For Arlene to claw her way through a tiny crack in the wall rather than face it. Yet she wasted precious seconds leaving the warning for yours truly. Thank God I didn't have to solve the mystery of the skull and crossbones. Getting through that crack would be an achievement all by itself. Ahead I began to hear a low, slow pounding, almost like someone beating on a monster drum a mile distant. Well, I could take that so long as it stayed there. I struggled out of my armor and pressed my right arm and shoulder into the crack. But there I stuck. I braced my foot against the floor and shoved. Several minutes and several pounds of flesh later, I was utterly convinced I could never fit through that crack unless I dismembered myself and threw the pieces through. One at a time. Wonder if I'll seriously consider that option when I see what's ahead, I thought. So now what? I sat on the floor, pounding my head with my hand in frustration. If I went forward, I was on my own. Arlene was no coward. If the thing ahead scared the bejesus out of her, enough that she forced her way through a crack several sizes too small, then what in God's name was it? Numbly, I stood, pulling on the armor again. As Mehitable the cat said to Archie the cockroach, what the hell, I already roamed the halls of the damned. What did I have to lose? I suppose I could sit here and starve to death. Shaking, I moved forward at snail speed, loaded rocket launcher in hand. But what if I found myself eyeball to eyeball with whatever it was? A rocket up the nose might piss it off, but at point blank range, it would also fry. Corporal fly. Ahead, I found an old-fashioned wooden elevator next to an old-fashioned rusted button. Somehow they seemed to fit right in here. In a place with living ladders, a few museum places were hardly out of line. I pushed the button. With a slow grinding sound, the sift began to descend. So far so good. It reached ground level, and I clumped aboard. What the hell else could I do? There was one button, and I pushed it. The lift creaked and groaned, like it was 100 years old, announcing my arrival to anyone inside. I braced, wondering whether to shift to the shotgun. Then it stopped up one floor, and my God, I saw what was inside. On a pair of iron thrones sat the largest, reddest, most horrible demons I could imagine, compared to which the other guys were fit for hosting kiddie shows on Saturday mornings. Giant minotaurs with goat limbs for legs, and curling savage horns on the top of their flat, broad heads. The chests and arms were carved from pure muscle. Their claws were so vicious that there was no comparison to the puny stuff I'd seen up until now. Princes of hell, and they were looking directly at me. So far, so bad. I froze, whimpering like a Cub Scout. All I could think was, oh Lord, the sisters were right all along. The Hell Prince on the left rose, trumpeting a marrow-freezing roar of discovery. Come on, fly. Snap out of it, get the hell out of Dodge. I hated every minute of every day of basic at Paris Island, and I bow at staff Sergeant Stern's feet and kiss his shiny boots for every second of it. My training kick-started my paralyzed legs even while my brain was struggling to remember the Lord's Prayer. All I could get was, Hail, Jesus, and I knew that was wrong. Faster than I thought myself capable, I bolted, but forward, right at the things, and skirted between the forest of red legs and into the black dark beyond. If they'd been any smaller, they would have had my head for lunch. I ran across a long stretch of floor and heard the familiar pig snorts left and right. I ran through utter blackness until I hit a wall, banging my shins. I hardly noticed. There I spun, snarling, fishing for my riot gun. If the porcine sons of bitches wanted Fly Taggart, they could bloody well take him, but not cheaply. They were converging on me. I could hear their snufflings and hungry growls. What the hell, I was dead anyway, right? I raised the shotgun and pounded a shell straight in front of me. One of the pig demons screamed in pain. Oh, you mean they can be hurt? I'd been wondering. I scuttled right. The wall came to a point, folding back on itself. I slipped around and immediately barked my already bruised shin on a barrel of that green, toxic mess. Staring into the sickly glow, I had a shimmer of an idea. Quickly, before I could think twice and decide against it, I heaved over the barrel. The goo spilled out of the 120-liter drum, and now my whole corner was lit by a hellish green Below, I could see. I was in a pointy corner amid a forest of toxin barrels, but the monsters coming after me were still invisible. I was under attack by ghosts, and the ghosts and the pig things were evidently one and the same. But yours truly, Flynn Taggart, never forgets a scam. I backed away from the flickering shadows, into the actual point. Maybe I couldn't see them, but they sure as hell could see me. They charged. I shot. Not a ghost, I shot a barrel. The explosion chain reaction, and I dived for the deck. Too late, I remembered the 10 or 11 rockets in my bandoliers. Luckily, the explosion stopped just short of me. When the acrid rain of toxic waste stopped falling, I jumped to my feet. My entire body resonated, and my inner ear was confused. I balanced precariously on my hind legs, shotgun wavering up, down, and sideways, but my ghosts appeared to have died, again. At least, they didn't attack. Staring wildly around the room, now lit by the green glow of 10,000 droplets of toxin sprayed far and near, I realized to my surprise that the room was actually a huge, star-shaped chamber. That seemed right in line with everything else. If they could have swastikas, why not Star Chamber? Proceedings. Alas, my restful reverie was short-lived. The hideous Hell Princes had seen my explosion and come to investigate. But this time, I knew what to expect. Nuns are no nuns, I told myself over and over that these were alien life forms, not demons. They couldn't be real demons. Could they? Hell was a myth, wasn't it? I raised my rocket launcher and let the first Hell Prince have it at 40 meters. The blast blew the motherless bastard backward, but it got to its feet. I couldn't believe it. I fired a second time, pack-loaded with one smooth move, and shot a third rocket. The giant got up again, and now it was joined by its comrade. This was not going according to plan. They pointed their clawed hands at me, but instead of the usual balls of flaming snot, these demons fired green energy pulses out of wrist launchers. I hugged the dirt as the stuff crackled over my head and made every hair on my head stand on end. Not very demonic, but pretty damn deadly. My turn again. In desperation, I pumped rocket number 4 at the first Hell Prince, and at last it seemed to do some damage. It got to its feet slowly and seemed confused about where I was. There was no reason to even try bothering the new one if I couldn't find out what repeated hammering did to the first. Minotaur. Yeah, minotaurs. They weren't demons. That Greek Theseus killed 1. Reload, rocket 5, and finally that did the trick. Number 1 went down and didn't get up again. But with behavior I was starting to expect from all godless creatures, it reached up a clawed hand and grabbed the other Hell Prince. Number 2 struggled to free itself, and I seized my opportunity. Screaming like a banshee, I charged to just out of range of its reach. Enraged, it slashed furiously, but my prayers were answered, and it was too mad to think of shooting energy bolts. I leaned in to shove the launcher right down the creature's enormous, howling mouth, and fly let fly. I won't even try to describe its breath. The Minotaur swallowed the little rocket, about the relative size of a multivitamin, and was literally blown away. I was knocked silly by the blast at such close proximity. I came to, surprised to be coming to. Losing consciousness in a place like this seemed like a one-way ticket to oblivion. I was lying on the floor of the same enormous, star-shaped chamber, but the walls had fallen, crumbling into constituent bricks outside, leaving the way clear to the outside. That whole concept of outside bothered me. Why wasn't I a corpse side, floating in space? There was air to breathe. There was an overcast sky to watch, complete with low-hanging clouds, dark clouds before a storm. Wherever I was, it sure as hell wasn't Phobos. I found a platform behind the building. There was a switch. I pressed it and watched a stairway slowly rise. What the hell, Archie, what the hell? I walked up the stairs. At the very top was a gate, a working gate. It was marked by a flickering symbol that gave me a splitting headache when I tried to concentrate on the design. I approached it, eyes averted. And damn me if there wasn't Arlene Sanders's last mark right next to the gate, pointing directly at the symbol. She'd written a single word, out. I didn't know, but I didn't hesitate a moment. If that were the way Arlene went, then that was where I was going. Without a glance back, I stepped aboard.